Look at the weather.
It's beautiful here.
Non-stop rain.
Oh, man, it is a blazer out there.
It's cold and it's shivery.
It is cold.
Really coming down here.
I really enjoy your weather reports.
From the All Indiana Podcast Network, we're talking weather in a whole new way. From historical events to what's coming up, plus weather news, science, safety, fun facts, and more.
I like where this is going.
This is Weather Weekly. Weather Weekly with Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Marcus Bailey.
Episode number 81. Good to be with you. Hey, welcome to the month of August. Man, we're moving right along. Kids are back in school in a lot of spots. Colleges are going to be starting here soon. I think some practices are already starting. NFL starting their training camp, and before you know it, it's going to be getting cooler, and we're going to be talking football and all good stuff, right? Good to be with you. I'm meteorologist Marcus Bailey with Wish TV in Indianapolis on a pretty nice morning, recording this on the 2nd here. Got some good rain Monday morning, got some nasty storms. Monday morning, thing really held together. It was pretty impressive. We were covering it on daybreak Monday morning, and it was racing across Illinois. When we hit the air at 4 a.m., there were several severe thunderstorm warnings back into Peoria, and that thing just hung together all morning long. And by around 9 o'clock, sure enough, we had several severe thunderstorm warnings that were racing across the state. We did get a little bit of damage around the metro area. There were several power outages done. Lebanon reporting some trees down out by the elementary school. Northeast side of Indianapolis, 5 homes were damaged in the Heatherward Estates subdivision with multiple trees down, some through the roofs of homes. We also saw some in Hamilton County. Tree fell in a house in Carmel. So large tree down at Bear Slide Golf Club in Cicero. Multiple trees down northwest side of Carmel. Had some large limbs down in Southport. That's the south side. So yeah, there was had some estimated winds of 60 mile per hour winds there in Fairland. That's in Shelby County. So, yeah, pretty quick pop of thunderstorm activity, but it definitely took a big chunk out of the metro area during the mid-morning hours. Thankfully, a lot of that happened kind of after the morning rush was done. A lot of kiddos were already on the bus or at school at that point. So that was some good news there. There were no injuries reported, and that's what we like to see. Don't like to see the damage, obviously, but glad to see that there was no injuries there. We're going to spend probably more time on this next week because I think there's going to be ample opportunity for more of these. But for the third time in about a week, there was an area in the Midwest that picked up about a foot of rain. And as I speak, southeastern parts of Illinois near Effingham are still seeing rain. And so I think the totals are going to go up. And so there are some ongoing flooding issues. Obviously, last week we talked about what happened in St. Louis, and that kind of sparked the podcast topic about aerial flood watches and warnings and flash flood watches and warnings. Of course, since then, we've had the devastating event that happened in eastern Kentucky near Hazard. I believe now over 30 people, unfortunately, have perished. And the governor of Kentucky expects that number to climb as they continue their rescue efforts. Very remote area where a lot of the flooding has taken place and it's hard to get to. So unfortunately, I think when we do our next podcast, we may focus on some of these flash flooding events and why they're so exceptional and what really created those situations. Unfortunately, I think we're probably going to see that number rise with that. And then obviously we'll tack on what's happening in Illinois. Thankfully, as of right now, I know it's still ongoing. I have not heard of any major issues, but I would assume there's probably a lot of flooded roads. There's probably some flooded homes. It looked like to me when you look at radar that where the heaviest rain were exceeded a foot of rain potentially. Likely happened in some very rural areas, but that means, people are still living out there. You got a lot of farmers out there, and so that could be a big problem. So we'll focus in on that in our next podcast here on Weather Weekly. But we want to stay on schedule, and we want to stay with what we typically do to open up the month, and that is a look back to the month of July, and of course preview the month of August and talk about some significant weather events that have happened during the month of August. That's coming up next here on Weather Weekly.
Audible's romance collection has something to satisfy every side of you. When it comes to what kind of romance you're into, you don't have to choose just one. Fancy a dalliance with a duke, or maybe a steamy billionaire? You could find a book boyfriend in the city and another one tearing it up on the hockey field. And if nothing on this earth satisfies, you can always find love in another realm. Discover modern rom-coms from authors like Lily Chu and Ali Hazelwood, the latest romantasy series from Sarah J. Maas and Rebecca Yarros, plus Regency favorites like Bridgerton and Outlander. And of course, all the really steamy stuff. Your first great love story is free when you sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com/Wondery. That's audible.com/Wondery.
Episode number 81. Good to be with you as we preview the month of August. Real quick, did want to give a quick recap to the month of July. Nothing too exceptional. It did run a little bit on the warm side. Was good for 32nd warmest, with that average temperature just above 78 degrees. And rainfall, although as bad as we started off the month, could have been a whole lot worse. We actually ranked 67th driest, so not quite right. Nearly last Wednesday just really kind of put us in much better shape here in Indianapolis. And we had a couple of, isolated downpours in here and there. So not bad. All right. It could have been a whole lot worse, especially how we kind of kicked off and the dry weather on a strong note. And that will carry over here for the month of August, which we want to look ahead to here. August, typically averaging around 3.20 inches of rainfall. One of the drier months that we have. Certainly the driest that we have for summer. September will be just slightly drier than that. October slightly wetter than that. And then only drier months would be December at the driest, 2.92, February at 2.43, and then January at 3.12. So August typically is a very dry month. We could use a little bit of rain to kind of help the farmers. Obviously, once you get kind of into late August and you're rolling into September, you're starting to get closer and closer into harvest time. So you don't want to overdo it too much there. So we'll keep an eye on that. In terms of the normals, let me skip ahead to August here for you. Stand by. You start the month off with an average high of 85. That is the hottest of the year. And an average low of 66 degrees. By the end of the month, our average high is 82. We'll call it 83 if we round up. And 63 degrees, the average low for the end of the month. So still a very warm month on tap. You don't see really big swings there. So those will be a few things that we are looking for as we start rolling through the next several days as we head into the busy month of August. We want to get to what we typically do, and that's our historic dates for the month of August, which can be, even though it's not necessarily known as a really soggy month, it can get a bit active here. So here are some historical things that have happened during the month of August. 1979, on the 1st, south of Mooresville, severe thunderstorm winds overturned 2 mobile homes and damaged others. In 1980, at Merrim in Sullivan County, severe thunderstorm winds tear a roof off a home and deposit it on a highway. That was on the 2nd. In 1991, on the 3rd, an F1 tornado briefly touches down south of Vincennes, and on the 4th in 2004, an F0 tornado touches down near Bloomington. On the 4th in 2009, severe thunderstorms bring tennis ball size hail, damaging wind, and a small tornado to central Indiana. In 1988, on the 5th, at Seymour, lightning strikes a utility pole, travels down power lines, and blows the rate box off of a house. And if I remember correctly, I'd have to look back on this if I remember correctly, and I think Ashley Brown, our chief, did a story on this for one of our weather specials. That could have been the date where two young ladies were struck by lightning and survived when they were playing softball, I believed. I'd have to remember. I can't remember off the top of my head. I know it was in Seymour. I know that the young ladies were in high school and they survived, and we've interviewed them. And they still have some, obviously, leftover effects from that. But really an incredible story. We interviewed them shortly after it happened in the early 90s, so I could have my dates mixed up. I apologize if I do. I do know it was around the Seymour area, though. I'll have to check back on that. All right, let's move along. On the... here we go. The 7th... 1977 across Park County. Locally heavy rains of 6 to 8 inches fall during August 7th and 8th. Total damage caused by the resultant flooding is estimated at $750,000. On the 9th in 1969, a tornado touched down just north of Speedway, destroying 5 houses and damaging several more. Let's move along here, see if we can find anything else. 1975 on the 13th near Avon, a tornado touches down in a mobile home park, destroying 3 mobile homes. In 1975 on the 14th, so this was the next day, about 3 inches of rain in an hour in Bloomington creates flooding issues for the city. Cars are stranded in high water on State Road 37, now known as I-69. On the 15th, 1988, severe thunderstorms bring damaging winds as well as hail nearly 2 inches in diameter to parts of Tippecanoe, Montgomery, and Carroll counties. Hail accumulates 2 to 3 inches deep in parts of Carroll County. Let's see. 1990 on the 20th, severe thunderstorms bring a variety of severe weather to central Indiana, including baseball-sized hail at Lesantville and a weak tornado at Indianapolis. 1923 on the 21st at Indianapolis, the record precipitation amount for the date is set at 1.23 inches. In 1936 on the 22nd at Indianapolis, the high temperature reaches 101 degrees. This marks the 12th time in 1936 that the temperature reached 100 degrees, which is a record number of times in a year for the city. In 2002, on the 23rd, a tornado briefly touches down at the Putnam County Fairgrounds and destroys 1 horse stable and damages 1 other building. In 1887, on the 25th, at Indianapolis, the record low temperature for the date is set at 49 degrees. A little chilly there for August. The 26th in 1986 at Whitestown, thunderstorm winds at a house blow open the back door and shatter a window, then blow open the refrigerator door and empty its contents while a 30-pound beagle is thrown off of a couch and out the front door. Man, a lot happened there. 1986 on the 26th. Here we go. 1914 on the 28th in Indianapolis, the record precipitation amount for the date set at almost 2.5 inches, 2.44 inches of rainfall. 1985 on the 29th, several homes in Crawfordsville are damaged by severe thunderstorm winds. A wind gust of 69 miles per hour is recorded in Indianapolis. 1973, Indianapolis, thunderstorm winds destroy a concrete wall of a hangar at the Weir Cook Airport. That was on the 30th. And in 1875 on the 31st at Indianapolis, the wettest summer, June through August, on record for the city wraps up with a total of 28.99 inches of rain. So just shy of 29 inches in a 3-month span. That's pretty incredible there. I think one thing to take note there, while there is plenty of severe weather for sure during the month of August, didn't have a whole lot of tornado reports, had more flooding reports probably than anything, and a lot of hail reports as well. So August can be an interesting month. Typically not one of the wetter months you have, but certainly can have its fair share of severe weather and some big time heat as well. So the big question is, will we be seeing any of that heat and or heavy rain in the extended forecast? We'll have that for you coming up next on Weather Weekly. Here Here's a look at the forecast for your first week of August. And the heat, obviously, big story here when this podcast drops, will be Wednesday the 3rd, and it will be the hottest day of the week, we believe. We're going with a high of 93. I think feels like temperatures are going to be close to 100. Some relief in sight from the heat, not so much the humidity. We've got a very muggy stretch up and coming. It's going to drive home some thunderstorm risks as we go through the second half of the week. Thursday, a cold front does bring numerous chances for rain on Thursday, and so with that, we're probably looking at highs only in the mid-80s, which is pretty close to where we should be for this time of year. And I think those chances, as the front stalls out, will likely linger on into Friday and possibly the weekend, although becoming a little bit more isolated heading into the weekend. So I think we're going to be in for a steam bath both Saturday and Sunday, and highs near 90. Heading into next week, I think we kind of cool things back just a bit. Mid-80s. We do have a chance for rain on Monday. I do think we start to dry things out by Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We'll get some drier air coming in, near normal temperatures, and highs into the low to mid-80s. But overnight lows will be in the low to mid-60s, so that should be far more comfortable than what we're going to be experiencing for the vast majority of this week, which overnight lows are likely going to be kind of hovering in the low to mid-70s, which isn't not great. The 8 to 14 day outlook, pretty strong signal, though, for above average temperatures. That would take us to the 15th, the middle of August, and a pretty strong signal for below average temperatures. In terms of the drought, we'll get a new update coming our way for Thursday, but that will factor in the rain that we picked up last Wednesday, which was not factored into the new drought monitor. There's still several areas that are under a moderate drought, including Indianapolis. But since then, we picked up an inch of rain on Wednesday, or close to it. We also got about a third of an inch of rain with some of those strong storms on Monday. So there may be some minor improvement. I would expect that we'll probably see some of that trim back in terms of moderate drought and be classified as abnormally dry conditions. So the monthly outlook actually kind of confirming that. Basically, parts of western Indiana, they're calling for the drought persisting, but most of the state now it's been improved. So some good signs there. And again, with a little bit of rain opportunities over the next several days, maybe not widespread except for Thursday. But if you get under some of these downpours here, that could do a little damage to some of the dry conditions that are still ongoing. But it is improved since, let's say, we really kind of focused in on this about 2 months ago. So that's some good news there. We'll keep an eye on it. Thanks for joining us here for this week's podcast. We always love to hear your feedback. If you got an issue, or if you've got maybe an idea that you want me to cover, shoot me an email anytime. Marcus.Bailey@wishtv.com. That's Marcus.Bailey@wishtv.com. You can also reach me out on social media, Marcus Bailey, whether on Facebook, at Marcus Bailey on Twitter and Instagram. Make sure you're tuning into all the other great podcasts, all part of the All Indiana Podcast Network. Have a great week. We will talk to you next Wednesday, and God bless.
Discover more from Storm Track 8 Weather and Wish TV. Online at wishtv.com, and when you follow Wish TV on Facebook. Plus, be sure to check out more great podcasts from the All Indiana Podcast Network now at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.